Hi there, we're carrying on this little Honda that we started a couple of weeks ago, and as you can see it's getting less and less and less just now. I've ordered the parts for the starter clutch and I'm waiting for those to arrive, so while I'm doing that there's lots and lots of other stuff I can be getting on with. You can see I've got the mudguard or the fender, all the running gears off it at the back end. I'm going to paint the frame up here, and I've got all these bits on the bench I'm going to show you now that need either paint or just a good clean to enhance the bike when we get it all back together. There's no point doing kind of half a job of these things, because it's the small stuff that really looks bad. Once you've got the rest of it done and it all looks great, apart from one or two nasty scabby bits, people will pick up on those straight away, and I'll see them too, and I'll not be happy. So let's have a look at the stuff I'm going to do now. I'll just carry you over there, excuse me guys. Hope you don't mind being carried like this. You can see we've got lots of stuff here that I've taken off the bike, some of which may or may not come back. The lamp isn't the prettiest in the world, but I think with a good clean it might be okay. Battery box, as you can see, pretty nasty and scabby inside, but that's just surface rust and that'll clean up, and then when it's painted that goes in there anyway, so that will cover a multitude of sins, but this will all be painted and look nice. The chain guard really just needs a good clean as much as anything, and then you get to things like this that just need a little clean up and paint. I've managed to find one of these, which is the mount for the ignition switch, so I'm going to mount that back on the frame as it should be. That's just a spacer for the rear axle, which I shall clean up. These little mounts are for the rear indicators or flashers, and they'll clean up and polish. Sorry, clean up and paint. Once again, we get to these mounts that the rear foot pegs go on, just a little bit tired and sad looking, so they'll clean up and paint really quite nicely. And the swing arm, likewise, that needs a good degrease, which I'll take my degreaser now and give it a good wash off, and then I'll see what I'm dealing with. Probably I'll just paint it, because it doesn't take an awful lot of work to do that once you've got it out. The rear fender here, it looks quite tired, and can you see that? Yeah, it looks quite tired and sad, and you think, will it come up? Well, you bet it will. I've cleaned up the other side, and look at that, it's going to come up. That's going to look absolutely great when it's back on the bike. So I just need to clean up this side likewise, and that's going to look absolutely brilliant. So, oops, I'll get on doing that just now. I don't usually have the bench in such a mess as this, but I've got so much stuff out that it's somewhat unavoidable. But so I'll get on with cleaning this stuff up now. This is the casing. That's the cover for the generator casing. You can see how nicely that's polished up already. And I've got the generator here with it. I've made a gasket for that, as you can see. So that will go back on when we get the starter clutch, and it'll look great. The rear hub, I'm going to polish that. As you can see, it's quite, it's just a bit discoloured and yellow looking, where the lacquer's kind of gone a bit sad. So I'll polish the lacquer off and give that a good polish out, and that's going to look absolutely great. And when I've done that and get the back wheel in and I can support the bike properly, I'll drop out the forks and polish those, and then we'll be ready. And having come this far, I am going to clean this frame up and paint it in all the sad bits, and you can see it's just a bit careworn looking, and when you flip the seat up it's just nice to have the bike looking very pretty. So I'll come down this side, you're going to see what it looks like now, and I'll show you it when it's done. Okay, well there's probably 4 or 5 hours working here, so I better get on with it, haven't I? Speak to you later. Hi everyone, we've been doing up this little CL350 for a couple of weeks now, on and off, and I've been waiting for the starter clutch to arrive. The starter clutch had bits missing from it. It was chewed to bits because our ham-fisted friend, who was the previous owner of this bike, had been doing his worst to try and destroy it forever. Anyway, this little bike's going to come back, and as if to evidence that, we've got all sorts of bits lying on the back of the table there. You can see we've got shocks, air filters, indicator heads, we've got a painted swing arm, we've got lots of other little bits that are painted up and ready to go. So what we're going to do now, we're going to put that starter clutch back on. The starter clutch is this chap here. Just picking up very carefully, because these little rollers are way of falling out, so it sits there, and you can see in there the little rollers and springs that sit in there. And what I've got to do is pop that onto this housing here, rotate it gently anti-clockwise, that'll slide on there, and then I need to align the keyway in there with the woodruff key that's sitting on the shaft. So it's not a big deal. So let's see if we can do that now, and you can come and watch me make an arse of myself. I'm sure you'll enjoy that. Okay, so let's get this, and I'll just slide it onto the housing there, rotate it anti-clockwise, and those little rollers should just drop back into their into the recess, and this should go straight on. We'll make an arse of it, and I'll just give myself enough room to get a tiny turn and get that lined up with the and there we are, that's on, and it really is how simple was that. I truly don't know how our ham-fisted friend got this so badly wrong before, but there we are. I can spin that up there now, take that onto that shaft, and it'll be beautiful. So when I've done that, we'll put the side cover on, nip it up, and put a new gasket on it, which I've made, and that'll be super. So let's just do that in a moment. Tighten this up correctly, and you can see when I rotate it that way, the hub turns freely, but when I try and rotate it that way, it won't, because it's turning the engine. That's exactly our design. I don't know how the previous guy got it so badly wrong, however, it's in a good place now, and this will spin up without a problem once we engage the starter, I'm sure. Hi there. As you can see, we've got a little bit further than we were previously. We've got the wheel in, the shocks on, it's all set up properly at the back end with the brakes, the chain guards on, the frame's painted, the battery carrier's back in, the lights are wired up at the back, and I don't know if you can quite see that, the tail lights on, and that's mounted up, and that works as well. So this lot all works at this end. And what I haven't done yet is a compression test. The air filter's in there, but that's only sitting in there just to locate it, make sure that they've sent me the correct one. I've got one for this side as well, of course. So what I'm going to do now is do a compression test, and if that's good as I expect it to be, I can clean up the exhaust, pop that on, pop the carbs on, and we'll set the static timing up, and we'll see if we can get a run out of it. So first thing is, let's see if the compression's okay. And I have a compression tester somewhere. There we go. Right. The sharp-eyed amongst you will notice there should be an inline fuse there, and it's all broken away, and I've not put one on yet. I have a bag of about 50 of these inline fuses somewhere that I cannot find, and I am not going to buy one, I'm going to find one. So you can see that's where it should be. So let's put our compression tester on here, let's see what it does. Okay, that's showing about 90 psi, so let's try it again. Yeah, about 90, 95. Let's have a look at this side. Wow, that's got a colossal compression, don't you believe? That's showing almost 200 pounds. That's a bit too much. Okay, the starter clutch that I've just put on was misbehaving a few minutes ago, and it was missing, it wasn't grabbing all the time, and I had a situation where I've got a couple of compression gauges, and one of them was showing at 90 at one side but about 200 on the other. Now I changed that gauge some time ago because I wasn't trusting it, and I've got this one here, and that showed I was giving it 190 and 100 about 100. So it's not surprising that you'd have such a big discrepancy when the bike's not run for so long, because the rings are going to be dry, the valves might not be seating as well as they might. Also, I've adjusted the tappets, however there might be, in this long layover, there may be a tiny bit of carbon trapped between the valve face and the valve seat. There's any number of reasons why your compressions could be different at this stage, so the best thing to do then is to get them running and try and get them to settle, and then you can go back and revisit these things. So I popped the carbs on it, cleaned the exhaust up. As you can see, they've come up really nicely, they're very pretty exhausts. and jumped up and gave it a whirl, and this is what happens. So it's a bit noisy, guys. It's a bit rattly because the tappets are noisy, but with the carbs and adjusted them, and the carbs, having been so horrible previously, really adjusted nicely, surprisingly well. The carbs adjusted surprisingly well. I wasn't exactly sure that they might do, but the little idle adjustments work perfectly. It sits and idles really nicely. The timing was a tiny bit retarded, so I've just advanced that a little bit, and it sits and idles for fun. The exhaust was a bit smoky, but I put some neat engine oil in the cylinders to lubricate them before I started it, just to kind of give the piston ring a chance to seal. One way or another, it's turned out really very well. I'm quite pleased with it. The tappets are noisy, as I say, not surprising at all. So when it cools down, I'll reset the tappets again. I'm going to put the air filters on. I'll pop that one in there, but I can't put the side cover on, which is this chap here, because you can see it's contoured to fit round the exhaust, and you can't get them in. You know, I've tried lots of times. You know, and you take it off there and you undo it here and you screw about trying to get it in. Really, for the time it takes to take the exhaust off, just do it, and then you can fit them properly. So I'll put the air filters in, and I've got some nice little hose clips here for it. Funny, when you're doing these things up, you always have zillions of hose clips. I don't know how I accumulate them, but I do, and you can always find a hose clip for every job. So I found a pair that really match, and they'll go around there. They're just the right size, not too long and not too broad, and you know, I'm kind of pedantic with that kind of stuff. So pop them on. I'm going to put the air cleaners on, which are new, as you saw previously. I think there's one. Oh, here's the other one. So I'll pop these on, and it's easy to do them like this when you've got the carbs exposed, because you've got to kind of get that bit on first, and then kind of ease it up, and this part here slides into a recess that runs across the frame, and then that locates it. After that, you're sorted. So I can put the side covers on and start to make it look a bit more like a motorbike. I've got the side covers, as I say, there's that one there, there's another one, you can maybe see it on top of there. The safest place for these things is always on the bike, you know, because they can't fall off the bike, they can fall off a shelf, stuff can fall on them, so that's what I'm going to do now. And then, as I say, I'll come back and set the tappets again. So one way or another, something of a result. I'm really very pleased with it. The engine doesn't make any nasty noises. It runs, it's quite healthy, and it's all starting to look a bit better, isn't it? Okay, something of a result. So here's our little CL350 ready to go now. There's one or two things left to do in it, but you've waited a long time for this one, so I'll just walk you through it. There's a lot more work in this than we first expected, but you have to put that down to some you win and some you lose. And although I've got a lot of time into it, I've probably about 60 hours in this bike. But my time cost me nothing, and I enjoy doing it. If I were doing it purely as a commercial exercise, it probably wouldn't stack up. But fortunately enough, the space I'm working in is such that I'll still sell this, I'll still make some decent money on it. So let's have a look and see what I've done. Okay, so what have we done to it? Starting from the back, working forwards, we've cleaned up the tail light bracket and painted it. We've cleaned up the tail light itself, which came up surprisingly well. A little bit tarnished in there, but come on guys, it's 50 years old, a wee bit of patina is nice. Cleaned up the exhaust, and that came up really well. They're lovely exhausties, but impossible to get hold of. New tyres, as you can see, and I've cleaned up the hub and all round here. I repainted the swing arm, and as you can see in there, I managed to save the little original bracket. Little label, I like that. New shocks, repainted the little hanger there, and repainted the little mount for the indicator heads. New indicator heads on. Cleaned and repainted these fellas that mount the foot pegs, and also we've repainted these and put new badges on. I managed to get hold of some of those in the UK. Just clean up the gear change and polish the generator cover there, which come up really nicely. The carbs look lovely and clean, and you remember the state they were in before, which was absolutely appalling. The engine's been cleaned up and it looks really quite nice. Working away forwards, that was broken, if you remember, the the clutch lever, and I happened to have one which was the right size. New indicator, new mirror heads, indicators and stalks here. Cleaned up the old fork gears, they came out really nicely, and I've left the original, is it Indiana? It says Indiana, they were Indiana roadworthiness sticker. I think it's roadworthiness, it might be just road tax, whatever it is. The fender came up really nicely. Painted the speedo on tack. Around this side, we're in the sun, a wee bit of glare here, so forgive me guys. We have cleaned up the fork legs, they came up really well, both sides of course. And the hub came up, you know, really beautifully. They're beautiful quality, these things, I just love them. Polished up the horn, a wee bit of patina there, but yeah, that's fine, I love a bit of patina. I need to polish that. I actually have one somewhere, so I'm going to dig it out and I'll polish up and then I'll swap it for this one. As I say, clean up these, painted them. We didn't paint the frame here, well actually there's just enough patina there to make me want to leave it. Onto the seat, painted the frame, new batteries you can see, new inline fuse because the old one was kind of broken and corroded, new clevises there. The seat itself has been cleaned, and the little rivets that sit there have all been cleaned up, and the little buckle, and even these little bolts that pinch the strap together. It's all in the detail, isn't it? These bolts that mount the indicator mounts, they were really rather good. So they look tatty, but such is the quality of the chrome on Hondas, they just polished up a treat. And the hub looks absolutely great, doesn't it? That was polished too, and the new shocks. So one way or another, new tyres both ends, and I think you'll agree. I hope you'll agree. It looks lovely. It's a spanking little bike. Have a look at it up here. These bolts were a bit scabby, so I've changed them for some nice Allen cap screws. I need to get some more cables. That's the brake switch cable, and the throttle cable's just, you know, just there. Just kind of lets it down. So I'm going to change that, and I'll buy some new proper grey cables for the clutch and the front brake as well. So new mirror heads, as I say. I think you'll agree. It's a lovely looking little bike. I really do like these CL350s. And it's made a bonny little bike. I'll take it out for a wee run now. Sorry, new headlight as well, I beg your pardon. New headlight bucket too. Not new, new old. Right, let's start up and we'll go for a wee ride. as ever, it's just testimony to the fantastic quality of the Hondas made in the 70s. I love these little bikes. They're beautifully engineered. They just last and last and last. So if you can find one, buy it. It'll be a great investment for you. So you can have tons and tons of fun, as long as you don't want to go over sort of 65 or 70. They'll allegedly do 100 miles an hour, but it all gets to sound a bit busy over 60. So, you know, if you wanted to do big speeds, I would say don't do it. A guy did try to buy one off me one time, and he said, oh yeah, as long as it'll do 82 up, that's fine. And he was just looking for the wrong bike, and I told him so. It might have done 82 up for a wee while, but they're not made for it, you know, and you just hurt the bike. Just look after them, and they'll last you forever. They're fantastic little bikes. Okay guys, thanks for that. Speak to you soon.